It is 8 p.m. and here are our top stories.
Layoffs at Denver Public Schools. We take a closer look at who's leaving and the amount of money that will be saved as a result.
Inflation continues to rise in the U.S., and the rest of the year isn't looking that good either.
The bad news is that we're probably going to continue to see price increases throughout 2022.
How the Federal Reserve is trying to fend off inflation with higher interest rates and how that could impact your bank account.
It just made me realize just how fortunate I was and how so many people, through no fault of their own, have the cards of life stacked against them.
As the fate of Roe v. Wade hangs in the balance, an update on the investigation into the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion. We also go in depth on the communities that will be most affected if Roe falls.
I want there to be a safe place for my kid to go to school and for other kids to go to school and not have to worry about going to the bathroom by themselves.
And parents concerned for their kids' safety after a fight breaks out at a Cherry Creek school. We are finding out how this is actually one of several altercations within the district, with many of them taped for social media.
Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us for Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Shannon Ogden.
I'm Danny New. We start tonight here in the Metro with the news that Denver Public Schools has decided to lay off dozens of employees in their central office, including 15 executive level jobs and then more than 60 other positions.
In a letter to employees, Superintendent Alex Marrero says these job cuts are a direct response to declining enrollment and dwindling funds at DPS.
Denver 7's Rob Harris has been following the story. Rob, I know that Superintendent Marrero also says that DPS would be saving a lot of money with this decision.
Yeah, question is what that money is going to go towards. The superintendent of DPS told us back in February that the district would have to reorganize because enrollment is projected to decline by 6% by 2025. We were told reorganization would not include cuts to employees who work directly with students, like teachers, bus drivers, or food service workers. Now we're starting to learn who is getting cut. At least 76 positions are being cut at the district. DPS says 15 are executive-level jobs, like deputy superintendents and executive directors of programs. The rest are various workers with the district's central support team. It's unclear right now what specific roles from the team have been cut, but the team includes the Department of Technology Services, English Language Acquisition, Culturally Responsive Education, and Human Resources. DPS says these cuts will save $9 million for its general fund. Now, we have not been told by the district what exactly the $9 million saved will be spent on, but Superintendent Alex Marrero is expected to talk about that at a Board of Education meeting tomorrow evening, guys.
And you talked to one of the employees who found out they were being let go today.
Yeah, and really kind of emotional. Didn't want to go on camera. She's still trying to kind of figure out what's next for her, but she did want to get the message out that she believes that the folks at the administration building are underappreciated. They're treated like they're separate from teachers, but she said during the pandemic, many of them had to step up, be substitute teachers, serve in the lunchroom, out in recess, all kinds of stuff.
So what do you think comes next?
Well, that's kind of the big question. We're waiting to find out what that $9 million goes towards. The district did say that the individuals who have had their positions cut can apply for other positions that are currently open with the district.
All right, very good. Rob Harris tonight. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. All right, well, we always hear what goes up must come down. And when it comes to inflation, all Americans have been just watching and waiting for prices to hopefully follow that rule one day. And in hopes to help, today the Feds made a bold move with issuing the biggest interest rate hike in 22 years. Denver 7 CB Cotton explains what that means for you and what it could mean for your bank account.
And asparagus.
Paige Arnold says at his age, he's learned a thing or two.
A lot of young people eat food just for the fun of it.
In his golden years, he now shops and eats with a purpose.
Older people, they don't need to eat as much.
So his grocery lists are short and simple. And that's a good thing right now.
The prices are up.
Like the rest of us, Arnold is hoping for relief. Perhaps it's finally coming.
The Fed's raising the interest rates.
On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. The goal, to get a grip on the highest inflation the country has seen in 40 years.
But they're also trying to maximize employment and create an environment for economic growth. What they did today was really thread the needle.
So what exactly does this mean for you? Well, borrowing costs are going to go up, so you'll pay higher interest rates for credit cards, student loans, car loans, adjustable rate mortgages, and home equity lines of credit. And DU finance professor Chris Hewen has this one recommendation.
Now is a good time to use excess cash to pay down your home equity line of credits as well as your credit card loans before those interest rates really start to impact your budget.
So why do the feds increase interest rates? Well, it keeps consumers and businesses from spending as much, and that eventually helps prices drop. We're going to dive much deeper into this tonight on Channel 7 at 10. In the newsroom, I'm Stevie Cotton, Denver 7.
Some professors of color have recently left DU's Graduate School of Professional Psychology, and students in the program now are worried they won't be able to find representation among their faculty staff. Well, today, dozens of students protested on campus. They say the breaking point was last week when a professor announced his departure for a better opportunity in California. One student we spoke with says he's now reconsidering his decision to enroll there.
It is renowned across all 50 states for its educational quality. But when I see that people who look like me, who have the same identities as me, and who espouse the same ideals as me are no longer a part of it, it makes me wonder, you know, can I get the quality of education that I'm looking for if all the voices that I'm hearing are the exact same?
And we heard back from DU leadership today. They say they are working with students and faculty to address these issues. The school has launched a workload equity task force to examine the issues expressed by the faculty.
State lawmakers don't appear to be in any rush to hear the remaining bills left on their agenda. Since our most recent check last week, they've only gotten 72 bills off of their plates. Meanwhile, there are hundreds more to go before the session concludes in 1 week. Denver 7 political reporter Megan Lopez takes us through some of those bills that passed and also the others that were not so lucky.
The countdown clock is on for the end of the legislative session, so let's take a quick look at the numbers. Of the 655 bills introduced this session, 287 still need to be voted on. 112 have been killed so far, and another 256 have passed, many of those already signed into law. So here's what we're watching out for you. Let's start with the flavor nicotine ban bill. This was one of the first to introduce this legislative session, but it was stalled in the House for quite a while. The question was over how it would affect funding for universal pre-K, which also passed this session. Today, the bill was finally taken up again and passed its final vote in the House. It's now heading to the Senate, but the big question is, and this is a big but, the governor's not supportive of the bill in its current form, so even if it passes, he could choose to veto it. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, the property tax bill was one of the most recently introduced. It's flying through the legislature. It passed the Senate today, and it's now on its way to the House. If approved, it would offer an average of $274 in savings for a home worth $500,000. It also offers savings for businesses for the next 2 years. Next up, the whistleblower protection bill. That one was born out of the COVID pandemic, and it's passed the legislature. It expands current whistleblower protections for workers who raise health and safety concerns in good faith. That one mainly passed along party lines. Now, a homeowner association board accountability bill. That one also recently passed the legislature. It requires HOAs to alert homeowners of delinquencies using multiple methods of communication. It restricts interest rates on unpaid fines to no more than 8% a year, and it requires HOAs to offer a repayment plan, among other things. That one's now on the governor's desk awaiting his approval. The so-called pink tax, that one also passed. Starting in 2023, it removes the sales tax from diapers and feminine hygiene products. It's waiting the governor's approval. One bill that did not survive this session is a paid family leave premium reduction. It would have reduced the amount that employers have to pay into the program for the first 6 months of next year by $57.5 million to offer them some financial relief. It made its way through the House with all Democratic co-sponsors, but it was killed in a Senate committee. The last day of session is May 11th, so expect a bloodbath of bills in coming days. And of course, we'll keep an eye on what passes and what doesn't. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Thank you, Megan. And one more thing, a bill to protect educators from doxing also passed the legislature. It adds them to the list of people who can request to have their personal information removed from government websites, which was inspired by recent events in Douglas County.
We are now a single flight away from the City of Light. Starting today, Air France is resuming nonstop service between DIA and Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport. Flights will operate 3 days per week during the summer, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. A lot more to cover for you on Denver 7 News on Local 3.
There was a decision I had to make. But at that time, it's like, okay, this is just my decision.
As you wait to hear the Supreme Court's decision on Roe v. Wade, We take an in-depth look at who will be most affected if the rule is actually overturned.
And Colorado's housing market isn't just about housing. We take a look at how a food bank has to uproot because of rising rents.
Oh, good boy.
Plus, rehoming hamsters, how one boy's love for these furry friends led to an organization that makes sure they're going to a loving home.